Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
This all happened when I was around 7 or 8 years old back when I was still in Scouts. I've been doing it for about a year at that point, and honestly, I loved it. Our group was pretty tight-knit, mostly kids from my neighborhood and school. Everyone got along great. We'd do camping trips, learn survival skills, work on badges, all that stuff. I was one of those kids who could talk to anyone and make friends easily, so I basically knew everyone in the group and got along with all of them. Well, almost all of them. There was this one kid who was just different, not in a good way. He was loud, aggressive, and constantly causing problems. He'd scream at people for no reason, start fights over nothing, make younger kids cry just for fun. At first, I thought maybe he had some special needs or something, so I tried being extra nice to him and including him in things. But nope. Years later, when we ended up at the same high school, I realized he was just a spoiled brat who'd never been told no in his life. This kid would constantly try to start fights with everyone. He'd push people around, steal their stuff, interrupt activities. The other scouts were sick of him, and our leaders were at their wits' end. I tried to stay patient, but eventually, even I had enough. I can't remember exactly what set me off that day. Knowing him, he was probably hitting one of the younger boys or harassing one of the girls in our group, but something he did made me snap, and I completely lost it on him. I shouted at him to knock it off and leave everyone alone. The weird thing was, he actually stopped. He didn't yell back, didn't cry, didn't throw a tantrum like usual. He just went silent, walked to the back of the cabin, sat down, and stared at me. Not a normal stare either. It was this creepy, intense glare that lasted the rest of the day. I should have known right then that something was up. Fast forward about a week to our next scout session. Everything was going fine at first. We were all busy with some activity, I don't remember what exactly, but it was keeping everyone occupied. Everyone except him, of course. Instead of participating, he decided to run around the cabin like a maniac. Our leader tried to get him to settle down, but that just made him worse. While he was running around causing chaos, he found the door to the little log cabin next to our main building. We used it for storage mostly. I was sitting pretty close to it, so I could hear everything happening inside. He started whispering from inside the cabin, saying something about finding something interesting. Then he called out to me, asking me to come over for a second. At first I thought he was up to more nonsense, but curiosity got the better of me. He kept calling out and I wanted to see what he'd found. So, like an idiot, I went over there. I asked him what it was, and he told me he had something to show me. I found him at the back of the cabin with his back turned to me. In my head, I was actually thinking maybe he was going to apologize for being such a jerk to everyone. I was already planning how I'd tell my friends about how I'd scared him into saying sorry. I asked him what he had there, calling him Buddy to be friendly. He turned around with this twisted grin on his face and asked if I could see what was in his hand. I couldn't see it at first, so I told him to bring it closer. He said sure with way too much enthusiasm. That's when I saw it. A knife with a dull red handle right there in his hand. He asked me again if I could see it now, still grinning like a maniac. I said something like, "Oh no," or "what the hell," and ran out of there fast. Behind me, I could hear him laughing like some kind of psycho. I sprinted out of the log cabin, burst into the main cabin, and immediately tripped over my own feet. I hit the floor hard, completely panicking. The leader noticed right away and came over. She asked me what was wrong and where he had gone. I told her that the wanker had a knife. Yeah, I actually said wanker. I remember that part clearly. She asked me what I meant, clearly confused. I explained that he was trying to gut me with it. It took her a second to process what I was saying, but when she understood, she went ballistic. She ran into the log cabin, absolutely fuming. My friends came over asking what happened, but before I could explain, we all heard the leader screaming. She demanded to know what made him think it was okay to threaten someone with a knife. He tried to defend himself by saying he wasn't threatening anyone, just showing it to me. She shot back, asking what made him think he had any right to hold a knife without a supervisor and that he could have hurt himself or me. He tried to say something, but she cut him off, ordering him to get out and wait outside for his mom to pick him up. She walked him outside and told another leader to watch us while she waited with him. According to what the other leaders told us later, his mother showed up and was absolutely furious. Not at her son, though, at me. She apparently tried to claim that I was the aggressor and called me all sorts of names. My friends and I laughed about it at the time, but if I'd known she was coming back for me the next week, I wouldn't have found it so funny. The following week, me and my friends were hanging out on this wooden bridge structure in front of the main cabin. We were just messing around, playing tag, being kids. Then suddenly this car pulled up and his mother got out. She demanded to know which one of us was me. I told her I was right here. She pointed at me and accused me of being the one who bullied her darling son. I asked her what she was talking about, completely confused. I looked at the car and saw him in the back seat crying his eyes out. I realized who she was and told her that her son had tried to slice me with a knife. She insisted that he would never do such a thing. Then she went off on this ridiculous rant about how amazing her son was. She claimed he was a gentleman, even though he literally harassed the younger girls in our group constantly. She said he was great at school when he couldn't pay attention for 5 seconds, and later in high school he was getting terrible grades and everything. She bragged that he had more friends than any of us when he had managed to make himself an outcast in our entire scout group. I honestly got bored of her nonsense and went back to playing with my friends. Some of them kept arguing with her, others ignored her completely. But one of my friends, this girl I'd known since kindergarten, started absolutely roasting this woman. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was brutal. The mother told my friend to shut up and called her a witch, saying this wasn't any of her business. That just made my friend angrier. Knowing her mom, I wasn't surprised she didn't back down. After a few minutes, one of the male leaders noticed the commotion and came over to see what was happening. The mother saw him coming and immediately jumped in her car and took off. When the leader asked what happened and we explained everything, he went straight to the main leader. She was absolutely livid. She banned the kid from scouts on the spot. The ban lasted years. It wasn't lifted until 2016, 3 years ago from when this all happened, when he apparently wanted to rejoin. By then I'd quit scouts back in 2011, so I didn't care anymore. But yeah, that's the story of how I got threatened with a knife at scouts and somehow ended up being the bad guy according to his psycho mother. My wife and I have been together for 8 years now. She brought her daughter into our relationship when she was just 7 years old, and together we've had 2 more kids who are now 5 and 3. I'm really close with my siblings, but the problem is we're scattered across 3 different continents. My brother lives in Japan with his family, my sister is in Germany with hers, and I'm here in the States. We don't get to see each other often. We usually only manage to get together at Christmas, and even then it's not guaranteed every year. This year everyone's schedules finally aligned, so we planned this big family reunion vacation to spend 2 weeks together in Europe. It took months of coordination between all of us to pick dates that worked for everyone. My stepdaughter has this best friend she's known literally since they were both in diapers. Our families are close. We go to every single one of her birthday parties, and this year was supposed to be her sweet 16. Big deal, I get it. When we started planning the overseas trip back in the summer, the very first thing we did was reach out to the friend's mother to ask when the party was going to be. She told us December 10th. Perfect. We coordinated with my siblings, made sure that date worked for everyone, and then booked everything. The flights for all 5 of us, hotels, the whole 9 yards. We specifically scheduled our departure for December 12th, 2 full days after the party, so my stepdaughter wouldn't miss it. Everything was set. Tickets purchased, time off approved at work, my siblings had their plans locked in. Then Monday happened, and my stepdaughter came home from school looking upset. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me the party got moved. My wife wanted to know what she meant by moved, and when it was being moved to. My stepdaughter explained that it was now scheduled for December 18th because some of her friend's family decided last minute they wanted to fly in for it, so they changed the date. I felt my stomach drop. December 18th was 6 days after we were supposed to leave. I said they couldn't just change it like that because we had planned our entire trip around the 10th. My wife asked what we were supposed to do since my stepdaughter couldn't miss her best friend's Sweet 16. I told her we were supposed to stick to our plans that we made months ago, plans that cost us thousands of dollars. That's when things started going downhill fast. I tried to be reasonable. My first suggestion was to talk to the friend's parents and explain our situation. We had planned everything around their original date. Surely they'd understand and maybe keep the original party date or at least have some sympathy for our position. My wife immediately shut that down and said absolutely not. She told me she wasn't going to ask them to change their plans back. I pointed out that they had changed their plans and messed up ours, and that we had spent a fortune on this trip. She countered that the friend's family was flying in and they couldn't help when they could fly. I reminded her that my family had been planning this for months, that my brother was coming from Japan and my sister from Germany. I explained that if we didn't go, I wouldn't see them until next year at the earliest, maybe longer. She didn't care. So I suggested Plan B. I proposed that we leave on schedule but change just my stepdaughter's ticket. She was 16 now, old enough to fly internationally by herself. She was on winter break, so she had the time. She could join us a week later. My wife refused this idea too. She said no because she wanted to go to the party as well, since she was friends with the mother. That floored me. This wasn't even about my stepdaughter anymore. My wife wanted to go to a teenager's birthday party. I told her she could go to the party and fly out later with my stepdaughter. She said no again and insisted we should all go together as a family. She suggested we just change everyone's tickets and leave after the party. I asked her if she had any idea what that would cost. I reminded her we'd have to change 5 tickets and the hotel reservations, and that we'd probably pay double what we already spent. She simply said it was important. I told her she knew what else was important, and that was the 2 weeks I had requested off work. I explained that if we left on the 19th instead of the 12th, that would cut our trip in half. I'd only get a week with my family instead of 2. I pointed out that I couldn't change my vacation time because it had already been approved and other people's schedules depended on it. She told me to just take less time off then. She wanted me to cut my time with my siblings, who I barely ever see, in half. She wanted me to spend thousands of extra dollars we didn't have budgeted, all for a birthday party. This argument went on for days. Every night we'd start again. I'd explain the money situation, the work situation, the family situation. She'd counter that my stepdaughter's friendship was important, that this was a huge milestone, that her friend's mother was one of her closest friends. I pointed out that her friend's mother apparently didn't value our friendship that much if she was willing to completely disregard our plans. My wife insisted she didn't do it to hurt us and that her family was flying in. I reminded her that my family had flights booked and that my entire family had coordinated around this. I asked what I was supposed to tell them. Sorry, can't make half the trip because my stepdaughter's friend decided other people were more important. She called me selfish. I asked her how I was being selfish when I was trying to protect our family's finances and honor commitments we made months ago. By last night, we were both exhausted from fighting. That's when my wife decided to put her foot down. She told me we weren't missing this party and that was final. I said fine, she wasn't missing this party, but I was taking our 2 kids and getting on that plane on the 12th whether she and her daughter were on it or not. Her face went white, then red. She asked if I would really dare to do that. I told her to watch me. I explained I wasn't letting my kids miss out on seeing their aunt and uncle because of a birthday party. I wasn't wasting thousands of dollars, and I wasn't cutting my vacation in half. I told her if she wanted to stay for the party, she could stay, but I was going. That's when my stepdaughter, who'd been listening from the hallway, came into the room. She yelled at me and called me a jerk. She said I didn't even care about her. I told her that was enough and to go to her room. She refused. I told her she was grounded then. That's when my wife jumped in and said I couldn't ground her because she was justified in what she said. My wife was taking my stepdaughter's side in this. She was defending her calling me names because I wouldn't completely upend our family vacation and our finances for a birthday party. I asked my wife if she was serious right now. She said completely serious, and that I was being unreasonable and putting my family ahead of hers. I reminded her that our two kids together were also my family, and that my stepdaughter was part of my family too. But that didn't mean her friend's last-minute party change got to dictate our lives. My stepdaughter started crying and said I was ruining everything. She said all her friends would be at this party and that it was the biggest event of the year. She told me everyone from their entire class was going, over 100 people with catered food and everything. She said she'd be humiliated if she was the only one who didn't show up. I tried to explain to her that I understood this felt important, but that we had made these plans months ago specifically around the original party date. I told her it wasn't our fault that the date got changed, and that sometimes we have to stick with our commitments even when it's hard. She wasn't hearing it. She said I just didn't care about what mattered to her. My wife added that I clearly didn't understand how important this friendship was. She explained that the other mother had been her friend since their daughters were born. She told me how this woman had helped her through her divorce from her ex, how my stepdaughter had stayed with them for days at a time during the worst part of that process. She said they were like family. I acknowledged that I understood their friendship was important, but I asked why that friendship apparently only went one way. I pointed out that if they were really such good friends, the other mother would have considered our plans before changing her party date. I said that real friends don't expect you to spend thousands of extra dollars and completely rearrange your life because they decided to accommodate their family at the last minute. My wife got angry and said I was being cruel. She accused me of not valuing her relationships or her daughter's happiness. I told her that wasn't true at all. I said I valued both of those things, but I also valued our financial stability, my relationship with my siblings, and the commitments we had already made. I reminded her that my brother and sister had also planned their entire holiday around these dates. I asked her how she'd feel if I told them we were only coming for half the time because a teenager's birthday party was more important than seeing them. She said they'd understand. I told her they wouldn't, and honestly, they shouldn't have to. I pointed out that we had done everything right. We had asked for the party date in advance. We had planned around it. We had made sure my stepdaughter wouldn't miss it. But now the other family had changed everything without any consideration for us, and somehow I was the bad guy for not wanting to absorb everything that came with their decision. My stepdaughter shouted that her friend's family had every right to change the party date and that we should just deal with it. I told her that yes, they had the right to change it, but we also had the right to stick with our original plans. I explained that when someone changes plans you've already accommodated, you're not obligated to accommodate the new plans, especially when doing so would cause you significant hardship. She called me selfish again. My wife said maybe we could compromise. She suggested that perhaps I could go with our two younger kids on schedule and she and my stepdaughter could come a few days later after the party. I asked her if she had checked how much it would cost to change just 2 tickets instead of all 5. She admitted she hadn't. I told her it would still be expensive, maybe not quite like changing all 5, but still a significant hit to our budget. Plus, I reminded her it would mean she and my stepdaughter would miss several days of the family reunion. She said that was fine, the party was worth it. I asked her point blank if a birthday party was really worth missing time with family we only see once a year, if we're lucky. She said yes. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. I told her I wasn't going to keep arguing in circles. I said I had made my decision and I was sticking to it. I was getting on that plane on December 12th with our 2 kids. She and my stepdaughter could make their own choice about whether to come with us or stay for the party, but I wasn't changing the tickets and I wasn't shortening our trip. My wife said I was tearing our family apart. I told her I wasn't the one doing that. I reminded her that the friend's family had created this situation by changing their plans, and she was the one choosing to prioritize their party over our family vacation. I said all I was doing was refusing to let their last-minute change derail everything we had planned. My stepdaughter was sobbing now. She said I hated her and that I'd never really accepted her as my daughter. That one stung. I've been in her life for 8 years. I've been to every school event, every recital, every parent-teacher conference. I've helped with homework, driven her to friends' houses, paid for activities and clothes, and everything else. And now she was saying I'd never accepted her because I wouldn't blow up our family vacation for her friend's party. I told her that wasn't fair and that she knew it wasn't true. I said I loved her and that I'd always treated her like my own daughter, but that didn't mean I was going to make decisions that hurt our entire family just to make her happy in this one moment. She ran to her room and slammed the door. My wife looked at me and said, I'd better fix this. She told me I had until the end of the week to come up with a solution that didn't involve splitting up the family or missing the party. I told her the solution was simple. Everyone gets on the plane on the 12th, like we planned. My stepdaughter would miss one party, but she'd get to spend 2 weeks with family in Europe. There would be other birthdays, other parties, but this trip with my siblings was something that might not happen again for years. She walked away without responding. Now here I am, 3 days until our scheduled departure, and nothing is resolved. My wife isn't speaking to me unless absolutely necessary. My stepdaughter won't come out of her room except for school. 2 younger kids can sense something is wrong and keep asking if we're still going on the airplane. I checked our finances again. Changing even just my wife and stepdaughter's tickets would cost us close to $3,000 extra. That's money we don't just have lying around. That's money we'd have to pull from our emergency fund or put on credit cards. I also talked to my boss again about the vacation time. He confirmed what I already knew. The dates are locked in. Other people have scheduled their time off around mine. If I came back a week early, it would mess up the whole department's schedule. So that's not an option either. I called my brother yesterday to give him a heads up about what was happening. He was confused about why we'd even considered changing our plans for a birthday party. He pointed out that we'd specifically asked about the party date before booking anything, which was exactly the right thing to do. He said the friend's family were being inconsiderate by changing it and expecting us to just roll with it. My sister said the same thing when I talked to her. She was kind of insulted that my wife thought a teenager's party was more important than seeing family we rarely get to see. But my wife doesn't see it that way. To her, I'm choosing my family over hers. I'm making my stepdaughter miss a major milestone in her life. I'm being inflexible and uncaring. The thing is, I do care. I care a lot. I wish there was a way to make everyone happy here, but there isn't. Someone is going to be disappointed no matter what we do. And given that we made our plans first, that we spent the money already, that we can't change the work schedule, and that my family is counting on us, I think the disappointment should fall on the people who created this mess by changing their plans at the last minute. Yesterday, my stepdaughter's friend texted her asking if we'd figured out how to make the party work. My stepdaughter told her we were still fighting about it. The friend said her mom felt bad about the date change, but that they couldn't help it because her grandmother and some cousins had decided to fly in and those were the only dates they could do. I wanted to point out that we also couldn't help our dates because we'd already booked everything, but I kept my mouth shut. This morning my wife tried one more time. She suggested we could borrow money from her parents to cover the ticket changes. I asked her if she was seriously proposing we go into debt to her parents over a birthday party. She said it wasn't just a birthday party, it was an important life event. I reminded her that spending 2 weeks with extended family was also an important life event, especially for our 2 younger kids who barely remember the last time they saw their aunt and uncle. She said they were too young to remember this trip anyway. I told her that was incredibly dismissive and that just because they're young didn't mean family time wasn't valuable for them. We're at a complete standstill. Neither of us is budging, and I'm running out of time to figure this out. Part of me wonders if I should just give in to keep the peace, but then I think about the money, the shortened trip, the disappointment to my siblings, and I know I can't. This isn't about being stubborn. This is about not letting other people's last-minute decisions completely derail our lives. My wife packed a bag this morning and said she's staying at her friend's house until I come to my senses. My stepdaughter is still barely speaking to me, and I'm here with our 2 little ones, trying to explain why mommy isn't home, while also packing for a trip that I'm still not sure we're all taking together. I bought the tickets. I'm getting on that plane on the 12th with my kids. If my wife and stepdaughter choose not to come, that's their decision. But I'm not changing the plans that we made months ago, that we built specifically around accommodating their party in the first place, just because someone else decided their family's convenience was more important than their original commitment. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.